Trailer lights. We've got issues. In my particular case, this marker light and this license plate light aren't working. This trailer has what's referred to as 4 flat wiring, a ground, and 3 other connectors. Most trailer wires, the brown and yellow, are going to go to your driver's side, and the brown and green are going to go to the passenger side. And if there are any other wires, black and white perhaps, they're going to go to any of the things like the marker lights or the license plate lights. Those are going to be constant powered. These brown wires on both sides go to tail lights, and the yellow and green wires go to brake and turn signal lights. First thing to do is remove this rear light. So what we've got on this side are the brown and yellow and the white grounded to the frame going into the light. On this Triton trailer, the wires are inside this frame right here. Part way up, there's a hole where those wires come through from the front to the back through that channel. Now this trailer, to power the license plate light and the marker light, had another wire, black and white, also running through this channel. And there was a slight problem with that. Now 9 times out of 10, problems with trailer lighting are usually caused by a bad ground somewhere. So that would be the first place to check. Make sure all your wires are connected either on the lights or at the front, and clean all the contacts. If that doesn't work, you've got another problem. This wire I pulled out of this channel. These contacts go all the way up to the marker light in front, and then further down these plug into the license plate light. So those are constantly lit, always powered. Those were spliced in, one the ground back here to the light, and another one to the brown wire inside the channel. Now why they weren't working was, when I pulled this out, a lot of things came with it. A mouse had made a nest inside here. Common problem when you've got a storage place where your trailer sits and there's critters crawling around. So I pulled this out, and here's what we were left with. Mouse-eaten wires. They love to chew right down to the copper. And in this side, the power line side, the black striped wire was eaten completely through. So we're going to replace this. You could buy a whole new harness and rewire the entire trailer, but this was the only piece that was damaged. So I'm just going to replace it. I'm going to reuse these connectors because they're rubberized and waterproof when you plug them into the light up in front. And we'll see that after I get these soldered. So I'm going to keep the ends, put in some new black and white wire. If we want to save these connectors and this spade, we'll be cutting these off, and we need to connect the new wires to these connectors. You could go old school and solder them. Use some heat shrink, but we're going to go a different route. So these are crimp connectors. You put the wire in each end that you're trying to connect, crimp them in the middle, and then this is heat shrink. You just heat that up and that'll shrink around, give you a nice waterproof seal. Let's try it. We've cut these connectors apart. Now we need to strip the ends. What I've done here is stuck each end of the stripped wire into this connector. Now you can get and use a fancy crimper with the right shaped jaws, but for a job like this you probably don't need it. So a simple wire stripper here with crimping capability is probably enough. So we're going to go with that. Just make sure both ends are pushed in. And crimp them down. Give them a tug test. Make sure that's not going to come apart. And let's shrink it. Don't have to get fancy with this either. We're just going to rotate it around until it shrinks right around the wire casing. Should be good to go. I did have to solder one of these for the end ground spade because I have some of those heat shrink ones, but they're going to be too thick, and this has to squeeze behind the tail light up against the frame. So we're going to solder this one and reuse it. And the method I found the easiest is to get yourself one of these magnifiers with the alligator clips, and always remember to put your heat shrink tubing on the wire before you solder. I've made that mistake more than once. So we're going to put these together like so. Give them a little bit of a twist, nothing too crazy, so they're intertwined. If it's hot, the solder will melt. There we go. What you want to do is heat the wires first. If the wires are hot, the solder will flow into them like magic. I'll let that cool. Best practice is to wipe those off. Some of these are rosin core solder. There's rosin in the middle that helps it flow. You want to wipe that off because that can lead to corrosion. Do I even have a rag? Plenty strong. Now we're going to put that heat shrink right over that and shrink it. You can use the edge of the soldering gun for this, soldering iron, but I find that sometimes when I do that, I burn right through it. This works just as well. Now we got to put it all back in the trailer. We've got to feed this all the way back to the front of the channel on the side of the trailer. So I'm going to use some painter's tape to attach it. We have one more connection to make under there, and the brown and yellow wire is inside, so we're going to have to pull it out to attach this black wire. It'll make sense in a second. Alright, I pulled this out of the hole in the side of the trailer underneath, and this here I had cut. This is one of the mouse-eaten wires. I'm going to strip this and connect our new harness. This provides to that brown wire the constant power, and it's just a pigtail section that breaks off of this. There's two sections that goes to the license plate light. Alright, let's try and send it through, and then we're going to have to pluck this section that we need to attach to that pigtail out of the hole underneath the trailer. It's going to be tricky, but I think we can do it. These are the connectors that go to the front marker light. think we might have hit the end. Let's go check. These are just in here by compression of this rubber frame. Usually once you get one end popped out, the rest will follow. These are the contacts that those wires plug into, and I don't see them here yet, so we got a little further to go. I think we're there. We'll just peel off our tape and connect these to the light. Before we do, we're going to apply a little dielectric grease to those contact ends. This promotes conductivity and gives you a little protection against corrosion. These just push right on, right up to the rubber, and then we'll install that back in the hole. Always fun. So I fished out the correct black and white line with the little pigtail that goes to the license plate, and I'm feeding it through this channel. That seems to be stuck. There we go. Pull those through with what looks like some bee's nest from days of old. And we're going to plug this back into the license plate light. Okay, we're going to tuck these back up in here so they're not too exposed to the weather. And then push the excess back into this channel. I made it a little longer than I needed it so that I could get to it. And when the factory wiring was in here, they did leave a bit of a loop sticking out this hole, probably so you could service it. We just have to hook up our ground wire on the back of the light. It just goes right onto the stud that goes through the frame. Feed these back into the channel so they don't get pinched. Like that. Spin the nuts back on. And then we'll give it a test. We'll have to hook it up to the van. See if everything's working. Yeah, take the wheel chock out. Now it should roll. Got my 4-flat connector plugged in. Backlights are working. One problem I see already. That side marker light should be on all the time. And this one is not. But it's probably the bulb. I'm guessing it's the bulb, because we didn't change anything with the brown wire. So I think we got a bad bulb. We'll check it. But this marker is once again working. And our license plate light is on as well. So we got a bad bulb. Let's check it out. I think I solved the problem. The nut that goes on the back of the stud was really rusty, so we probably weren't getting any grounding to the frame. But we're going to test it before we put it back on. I'm going to tighten the nut. Cleaned it up with some steel wool. And the stud, and where that tightens down onto the trailer. Cleaned them up, greased them. Now let's see, we'll tighten them up. Marker light's on, license plate light is on, and we should be good on the tail lights. The other side is working. Yep. 4 ways. 4 ways are both working. Now I'll try the brake lights.